Welcome back to Hannity. 2016 presidential candidate Rand Paul has been busy on the campaign trail and in the United States Senate, where he's been pushing for immigration restrictions in the wake of the Paris and San Bernardino terrorist attacks. And recently, Senator Paul has been slamming his Republican rival and congressional colleague Marco Rubio for missing key votes in the Senate. Joining me now to explain is the man himself, Republican candidate for president and Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. Good to see you, Senator. Traditionally, you're on the libertarian end of the Republican Party, and traditionally libertarians tend to be more relaxed about immigration than perhaps conservatives do. What's the rationale for immigration restriction from your philosophical perspective, as it were?
You know, I think there's a mixture of feelings on immigration within libertarian and conservative circles, and I don't find that there's a real consensus. But I do think that if we're going to defend our country, it starts with our borders. And ever since 9/11, I've been frustrated. The 20 hijackers that came here all came here through the legal immigration system. And I've asked repeatedly, was anyone ever fired for doing a bad job? Did we ever change the rules? Are we vetting and screening people better than we used to? And I don't think we necessarily are. In 2013, 2 Iraqi refugees came to my hometown, Bowling Green, Kentucky, and they proceeded to try to buy Stinger missiles, even though one of them's fingerprints were already in the database from being on a bomb fragment. So I don't think we're doing an adequate job, and I've been advocating for much more scrutiny, and this has put me in opposition to Marco Rubio because he has stopped me at every point from trying to get more border security.
Yeah, back in 9/11, basically those young Saudi men filled in joke applications. The form said address in the United States, and they wrote holiday in America. And in response to that, the government created this huge new bureaucracy specifically designed to prevent that happening again. But you get the sense from Tashfeen Malik's immigration application that, in fact, the same thing is just going on. It just costs more money to let all these people in than it did before.
And one of the interesting things is when you go back to 9/11, the 20th hijacker, the one we caught, Moussaoui, he was a French citizen, and he came in here under the visa waiver program. All of the attackers in the Paris tragedy recently, they were also French citizens. So I do think the visa waiver nations are a danger. And what I've been advocating is that it's not that I want to stop travel. I just think people should go through global entry. This is a program that already exists, and what you would do is a background check, the same way we do it for a frequent flyer program. I think that's the very least we can do. But if we continue doing the visa waiver program like we're doing it, we are going to be attacked again, and we're going to be sorry that no one listened to me as I tried to have better security for the country.
So you're concerned basically about Muslims who happen to hold French passports, British passports, German passports, Australian passports, and can basically come and go as they please.
Yeah, but it's not Muslims. I'm concerned about terrorists, and they happen to be radical Islamic terrorists, yes. But what I'm really concerned is that we look and screen those who would come and attack us. If you're a French businessman or woman, Christian or Muslim, you're known to us and you travel back and forth for business all the time, by all means, let's continue that. But we have to have scrutiny. If you're a 25-year-old guy who just came from Algeria last year and you have a French passport, we're going to have some more scrutiny. We can't just let you come on a plane and come visit.
So that gets very close to some of the reforms they're trying to make now, where they're saying if you're in the visa waiver countries, but you happen to have visited Syria, Sudan, countries like that in the last 5 years, you don't qualify for visa waiver. Is that good enough for you?
Well, here's the problem. We've listed 4 countries, but Saudi Arabia is not on the list, and 16 of the 19 hijackers came from Saudi Arabia. So, frankly, I am concerned about people originating out of Saudi Arabia and whether they're friend or foe. So I would apply it to everyone. I would apply global entry to everyone. I think that if you're a known traveler and you're a businessman or woman, apply and get in global entry, and then you can come and visit. If you won't apply, you won't do the background visit, we're not going to take random visitors. I think that's what we have to do. And I know that's going to be a hassle for some people, but once it gets started and is done, we'll at least have some scrutiny. It bugs me to death that legal immigration is how they're attacking us.
Right.
Most of the attacks over the past 15 years have been legal immigrants to our country,
right.
but we're not screening who comes to our country.
You've been critical of Marco Rubio. Let's take a look at this campaign ad you've made of his rare appearances and multiple non-appearances in the body you're both a member of. Let's take a look at it.
You keep missing votes on the Senate floor, 43% of the votes. I know you say you're campaigning for president.
Marco Rubio.
A lot of these votes won't mean anything. They're not going to pass, and even if they did, the president would veto it.
The other day, though, you got up on the Senate floor and you said federal workers who don't show up should be fired.
Marco Rubio.
Now, all the senators running for president managed to vote on this hideous budget bill. You, Bernie Sanders, Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, but no Marco Rubio. Is there a reason for that as far as you can see?
It may have been the most important vote of the year. It was certainly the largest spending bill of the year. And yeah, I think if you are being paid by the taxpayer, you should show up and vote. And so I think this is a big issue. And I think for him to say he's only going to show up when he thinks it's a close vote, I don't think that passes muster. And I think really that he ought to just resign or probably give his pay back, because he's not really earning his pay at this point. But yeah, this spending bill was something that was horrendous. And it was a $1.1 trillion spending bill. It busts the budget caps. And really it also shows, though, that the complicity on deficit spending, both parties deserve some blame here. And that's what I've been saying all along. The right wants military spending, the left wants welfare spending, but in order to get what they want, the right has to give the left welfare spending, and then everybody gets what they want, except for the taxpayer who gets stuck with the bill. Yeah, the bipartisan conspiracy against the American people. Rand Paul, good to see you. Merry Christmas, and good luck in Iowa on the campaign trail. Welcome back to Hannity. A new Quinnipiac University poll says 59% of Americans worry that the government's anti-terrorism policies have not gone far enough to protect the homeland. And the Democrats appear to be tone deaf in the fight against radical Islamic terrorism. Instead of identifying the enemy and confronting it, they're blaming others. Watch this.
If you've been watching television for the last month, all you've been seeing, all you've been hearing about is these guys with masks or black flags who are potentially coming to get you. The media is pursuing ratings. This is a legitimate news story. I think that it's up to the media to make a determination about how they want to cover things.
What you're hearing from some of the Republicans, most particularly Mr. Trump, about Muslims is not only dangerous, it's shameful. And if you go on Arabic television, as we have, and you look at what is being blasted out with video of Mr. Trump being translated into Arabic, no Muslims coming to the United States, other kinds of derogatory, defamatory statements, it is playing into the hands of the violent jihadists.
Here with reaction to that is 2016 Republican presidential candidate, former Governor Mike Huckabee, who put out an interesting tweet the other day to Hillary Clinton saying, if Muslims have nothing whatsoever to do with terrorism, why would offending them boost ISIS recruitment? Yeah, there seems to be a kind of disconnect here, doesn't there?
There really does, Mark. It's interesting, but Hillary also said that they're playing all these comments of Donald Trump. Nobody can find those. I think it ranks right up there with her getting shot at when she was going to Bosnia. Right up there with saying that it was the video that caused the actions of the terrorists at Benghazi, when in fact she knew that wasn't true either. Hillary's got a long history of saying one thing that just can't be verified because, well, quite frankly, it just isn't true. And here's another one. Nobody's been able to find those tapes in Arabic that she says she's been watching. So why doesn't her campaign release them?
Right. If nothing else, you'd think that they could have persuaded Al Arabiya or some other network to actually make an anti-Trump video at this point. What's going on here? Because after these terrorist atrocities in Paris and San Bernardino, the president says, oh, it's just the media pursuing ratings. At the same time, we have the president saying it's nothing to do with Islam. We have John Kerry standing up in Paris saying there's no Islam to see here. Hillary Clinton, it's nothing to do with Islam. David Cameron, it's nothing to do with Islam. Francois Hollande, it's nothing to do with Islam. And the public seems to be not buying it, to put it mildly.
Well, Mark, why could they buy it? I mean, every time one of these terrorist incidents happen, the terrorists first shout Allah Akbar right before they pull the gun or blow somebody up. I mean, it's ludicrous to suggest that there's no connection whatsoever. Now, that doesn't mean that every Muslim is a terrorist. But look, here's the thing I don't understand. If Presbyterians or Baptists or Methodists were engaged in terrorizing people by blowing up the finish line at the Boston Marathon or going into an office Christmas party and shooting the place up, we wouldn't pretend that all Presbyterians, all Baptists, or all Methodists were doing it, but we certainly would say, look, there were some Presbyterians that have now had many, many terrorist acts. So why can't we say that it's applicable to Muslims? I think it's because the Democrats seem to be more interested in protecting the reputation of Islam than they do protecting Americans. And that ought to be troubling to anybody who's going to be a voter and care about national security.
Essentially, it's who you're going to believe, me or your own lying eyes argument. As you say, when the guy is standing on the table yelling Allahu Akbar, opening fire on you, like the Fort Hood guy did, like the guy in the rock music concert in Paris, there is a pattern here. And we could have an intelligent conversation about the actual causes, but Hillary would rather just say, oh, this Huckabee guy, he's a racist for even bringing it up. That seems to be their approach to it.
Nothing to do with racism whatsoever. I have friends who are Muslim. We all do. Great respect. And the Muslims I know are highly offended. And in fact, they're outraged that people use their Islamic religion as a means of murder and mayhem. So I just think that what Hillary and Obama and John Kerry all ought to do is recognize that there are people who are Muslim, who are jihadists, who believe that their purpose on earth is to kill everybody that doesn't agree with them and isn't interested in establishing a caliphate and pushing us back to the 7th century. I'm not interested in going back to that uncivilized time, and I don't think a lot of the rest of the world is either. So let's be honest about it and say, we're not going there. We're just not going there.
Tashfeen Malik, this terrorist mail-order bride in the San Bernardino case, she gave a fake address. You can't look up what she said on Facebook because it would be insensitive and breach privacy. Yet at the same time, perfectly law-abiding Americans going home for Christmas, grandma has to take her shoes off, submit to a pat-down at the airport. When you're going around Iowa, do you get the sense that the voters have had enough of this?
People are so angry, Mark. It's so evident. There's a visceral, visible, vicious anger. And it wasn't helped by the Republicans throwing in the towel last week and giving the Democrats everything they wanted for Christmas, and all the Republicans got was a lump of coal in their stocking. But I do think that there's a sense of duplicity with our government. Look, Obama says we can't look at the social network and the social media of people like the shooter because it might invade her privacy. Well, I'm sorry. She's not an American citizen. She's not entitled to the constitutional rights of privacy. Besides that, if I go and apply to be a server at Applebee's, the HR department is going to check my social media to see if there's anything on my Facebook or my Twitter account that causes them to have alarm. Now, I'm telling you something. I think it's ridiculous that you import somebody coming here who has clearly been radicalized and has, as we now know, an intent to murder Americans. But we don't want to invade her privacy, so we don't look at those things in social media. But we take more care, somebody serving food at Applebee's than we do someone coming here from Pakistan or Saudi Arabia. Mark, that's nonsense.
Yeah, that's right, Senator. The chicken salad comes with more scrutiny than U.S. residency. That's the insanity of the world we live in, Senator. Governor, thanks a lot, Mike Huckabee, and a very Merry Christmas to you. Good luck on the campaign trail in Iowa.